Hey everybody, this is Zach from Board with Friends, and today we're going to be doing another crafting decks for the Transformers TCG. So I spent some time and I created a deck revolving, much like my Shockwave deck, where I wanted to revolve it around one character and what they could do. This time I took a look at one of my other super rares, General Megatron from the Wave 3 Seige set. Megatron is different beast than Shockwave, so it was kind of interesting to come up with a way to thematically approach this deck and how it would complement this card. He's a 13-star character. He's got, in vehicle mode, when you start with him, he has 5 attack, 3 defense, and 15 health. And his ability in this mode is when you flip to this mode, you do damage to an enemy equal to the number of weapons you have on the battlefield. So you can probably already see where this is going to go. When Megatron transforms, he gains 7 attack, and he lowers his defense to 2. When at the start of my turn, if this has 3 or more upgrades, I do 1 damage to each enemy. So right away you can see that this is probably going to be very much scattered around upgrades, and having a lot of them, the weapons and the other upgrades as well, are crucial to making Megatron work. Because I want to have at least 3 on him so I can just constantly, at the start of every turn, do damage. It's going to be fun. Who I decided to complement him with is, because he's all around upgrades, is I did choose for his first companion to be a Battle Master. So who I chose ended up being was Raider Blowpipe. He's a 2 attack, 7 health, and 1 defense. I like him because he's going to stay on the battlefield a little bit longer because of his 7 health. I think most of the Battle Masters have 6 or 5 health. But he's a 5-star character, so he fit nicely in with the total amount of stars that I had available to me. And in his robot mode, his only mode, he has Focus 1. So Focus is an interesting ability. Before flipping battle cards when battling, I get to look at the top card of my deck, and I can choose to scrap it. When it's Focus 1, I can just choose to scrap it. 2, I can, if it's more than 1, I can choose to put them back in any order I want. And this is when it happens in attacking or defending, because anytime he goes into a battle. So it's crucial to having a little bit of control over what's coming out of that deck when I battle. So Blowpipe, when he transforms, after he's knocked out, he becomes the Dual Impact Shatterblast Compression Cannon. Really long name for a fun little weapon here. Blowpipe does not add any attack or defense, which most people would find as a detriment. But when the upgraded character attacks and I flip cards, I get +1 attack until end of turn for each different color battle icon I flip. So when I'm flipping cards with him, I can add in a variable amount of attack. But again, we'll see what happens with this. I might be making a wrong choice here, but I like the idea of him, and how he goes along with Megatron. And the last piece of my team is going to be FlameWar, specifically Specialist FlameWar, the second version of FlameWar. She's a motorcycle, she's a specialist, she has 4 attack, she has 10 health, and 0 defense in her motorcycle mode, but she does have stealth. So enemies attack other characters if able. So I can kind of direct the attacking towards Megatron to absorb damage, or Blowpipe to knock him out so I can have him as a weaponizer. When FlameWar transforms, she goes 4 attack still, but she gains a defense, probably because she no longer has stealth. But she has Focus 2 to go along with Blowpipe. Focus 2, when I flip battle cards, I get to look at the top cards of my deck, I can scrap any number of them, or I can put the rest back in any order. So I can still have a little bit of control over what's coming out of that deck. If they're not helpful, I can get rid of them. If they are helpful, they're there. So I like Focus. I haven't really used it much in the decks that I've created, but we're going to start. So we're going to look at the battle deck now, and this time, I promise, I sorted the cards. So the first thing I put in the deck was a secret action card called Dampening Field. I like Dampening Field because when the character defends, my opponent can't flip more than 4 battle cards during the turn. So it's an interesting way of controlling what my opponent can do. And it's a white pip card, so it lets me flip more. The next card I added in I added 2 of these, is defensive formation. So more secret action cards. I really like these secret actions, and I like that there's more coming out. It's a really cool mechanic to the game. When defensive formation is flipped, when a character defends, each of my characters gets +1 defense until end of turn. This is especially useful if you're going up against a team that has more robots than you, because they're going to get multiple attacks on you when you're all tapped out and they're not. So it's helpful to have these cards in here because I can add defense to everybody for those multiple attacks. So I like that. The next thing I added in, because I want to be able to play multiple actions, I put in 2 brainstorms. They add in some blue pips, which, you need a few of those in there. And brainstorms is useful because it lets me play multiple actions. So we got brainstorms. I also put in, because I'm going to be wanting to flip Megatron back and forth for his ability, I added in some rapid conversions, which also add in those white pips, which let me flip more battle icons. I don't see a problem with rapid conversion. I like having at least 1 or 2 in pretty much every deck I make. I also added in squish them like bugs as an action. This one, I used it to decent effect when I've tested out my Shockwave deck, and I like this especially when I have a card like Megatron who has a high tier stars. The reason being is when this does attack damage to an enemy that has fewer stars than it, I do 1 damage to one damage to each enemy that has fewer stars than that character. Especially if I'm playing against a combiner, this is a really useful card. And it also adds an orange pip. We also added in 2 rock tosses. I like rock toss a lot, as I've talked about before, because it adds in not only an orange pip, but it also has a pierce pip in there. These battle icons are dead useful. It's guaranteed damage, and it's adding to the damage. If I play the rock toss, it just does 1 damage to a tapped enemy. So, useful there as well. So, 2 of those. The next action I put in here is Scrounge. So, Scrounge is a card, I haven't really used it a lot, but I feel like it is an excellent card to have for Megatron. It lets me scrap the top card of my deck, and if it's an upgrade, I may play it. And I like that Scrounge has the green battle icon on it, because if I flip it during a battle, I can actually pull it into my hand. So I can get a little bit more usefulness out of it, and it lets me get more upgrades out, which is what you want when you're playing a deck with Megatron. Next, we added in Underhanded Tactics. Do 1 damage to an enemy, and if it's knocked out this way, I repair 1 damage from one of my Decepticons. I have a full deck of... my character roster is all Decepticons, so this is going to be a useful way to keep people healthy. Mainly FlameWar and Megatron, because I want to kill Blowpipe as quickly as possible. Maybe not as quickly as possible, that's kind of mean, but... So the next card I added in as action to just add a little bit more blue into the deck for defense, and also because I have 2 ranged characters in this lineup, is marksmanship. If you have a ranged character on the battlefield, I do 2 damage to an enemy in bot mode. So it's just another quick way to get a little bit extra damage on there. Now we have disruptive entrance. Look at the opponent's hand and scrap an action from it. I like this card. I haven't really used it a lot, but it would be helpful. 1, it's a blue pip, so for defense I like it. And 2, I look into the opponent's hand and scrap it. If I'm playing against a combiner, I could potentially get rid of their Enigma, which means they can't combine. So a little bit more control. Another action I added in is a pep talk, so I get to draw 2 cards, which just is helpful to have. Then we have a surprise attack, which is a nice white pip so I can flip more cards, but also it adds in Pierce 3. Useful. Really like surprise attack. It's a good card. I added in 2 espionages. Espionage is a fun one. I get to choose a battle icon color, and then I look at my opponent's hand and I can scrap a card from it, and it has a battle icon of that color. So again, I could pick green, and I could get rid of, say, a Combiner Enigma. I don't know anybody who keeps running Combiner teams against me. The last actions I added in here, we're coming to the end of actions, is dismantle. So I can scrap an enemy weapon or armor. I like this a little bit better than vaporize. Vaporize does give me the ability to scrap any enemy upgrade, but this one also adds in the black battle icon, so it gives me pierce. Vaporize just gives me defense, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with either option, but if I'm going to choose between doing more damage or having a chance of defense, there's more battle icons that'll help me during an attack. I'd rather have this. And then getting rid of weapons and armor is usually a little bit better than getting rid of a utility. Usually. There are a lot of good utilities there, though. So the last action in this deck is Pop a Wheelie. I put this in solely because I have FlameWar, and why not? I wanted to try out this card. It's a pretty cool card. Flip each of my characters from motorcycle mode, from bot mode to motorcycle mode, and then I get an extra attack this turn, but only a motorcycle can attack this way. So I can play this card, attack with Megatron, and then I get an extra attack with FlameWar. So 2 attacks in a row if I normally wouldn't get one. Cool card to have just in the hand whenever it's ready to be played, and the white pip is going to help out obviously because it'll flip more cards. So now we get into these upgrades. So the first set of upgrades I put in here is metal detector. I really like metal detector, and it's going to help this deck a lot because one, it's got black pips, so on an attack it's going to add pierce. If it comes out, it's got the green icon, so I can bring it into my hand, so I can play it on my turn. And when the upgraded character attacks, I reveal the top card of my deck, and if it's an upgrade, I can play it. Very similar to Scrounge, except I just reveal, I don't have to scrap. The next upgrade I put out here is Energy Pack. Adds some attack, and it puts on characters with 11 stars or more, so Megatron, and I can give him +4 health. So just another way to keep him in the game because he will be targeted most likely, because this deck basically revolves around him, which is appropriate for Megatron since he's very egotistical. The next set is an armor. I put in reactive armor. I've never used this card before. This is the first deck I've really built with it. It is from the Wave 3 sets, but it does add orange for attack and green, so I can take it into my hand, which is, again, very useful. When this is scrapped from a character, I scrap an enemy armor, so I can, have easy ways to get it on me, to get more upgrades, to make Megatron's abilities kick in, but also I can use it to control my opponent, which I like, and it adds +1 defense when I attach it. Next we have a oldie but goodie, the Improvised Shield. I like it because it adds 2 attack power when I flip it, and it just gives me tough 1. So nice little thing to add on to Blowpipe or FlameWar, and dead useful when I flip it during an attack. Next we have cooling vents. I added one of these. When I put this on a ranged character, I repair 1 damage from it. So it's a little bit of a way to repair things, and it adds +1 defense, and it has an orange icon. Now, I know I said I made this deck specifically for Megatron, but I did add in a couple cards to complement FlameWar, like the multi-tool. So when I put this on a specialist, I may play an upgrade, which it goes off of FlameWar because she's the specialist, but at the same time, it does help me with Megatron's abilities because it lets me play another upgrade. So I can pop this on her and then get another upgrade out there, get more upgrades out and make my team more powerful, because that's what you need. Next, we have Combat Dagger. I added 2 of these to the deck. It gives orange, and it gives pierce with the black pip. But when you upgrade it as a weapon, it gives bold 1, so I get to flip an extra card. Mainly, I like this because when I'm flipping, this is going to do guaranteed damage, which is awesome. The bold 1 is just a nice extra thing that could happen if I actually attach this to a character. I also added, getting down to the last few here, 3 armored hovercrafts. And because I have 2 ranged characters, this is going to be very useful. When I put this on a ranged character, I do 1 damage to each enemy. So I can start damaging all my other enemies just by playing this. It gives +1 attack. It does add some blue pips for the defensive nature. but I have 2 characters potentially on the field, especially early game. This would be nice to get out, because then I have some choices, but Megatron is ranged as well, so it could go towards him. And then the final piece here is I added 3 attack drones, and this just goes right off of Megatron's ability for his tank mode. I do damage to an enemy equal to the number of weapons I have on the battlefield. Attack Drone is a really cool card. One, I can pull it into my hand because of the green pip. It lets me flip other cards when I flip it. And then once I get 3 of these out, one by itself, not really impressive. It just adds +1 attack. But I can have 3 attack drones to fit into 1 weapon slot. So that's going to add to Megatron's ability tremendously, because if I get it on, FlameWar or Megatron, if I start putting out multiple attack drones on somebody, it's not only going to boost their attack, but also I can flip to his vehicle mode, and I can do a lot of damage this way. So this deck is very much crafted around dealing damage and getting those upgrades out there and manipulating my opponent, which is kind of the way I like to play. If you have any suggestions, feel free to comment below if you think I should tweak something. I think I made it pretty well to complement Megatron, and I haven't tested it yet against an opponent, but I'm really enjoying, making these videos and making these decks. But this is how it works out. I will put in the description below a list of every card that I put in this deck. But like I said, if you like what you saw, comment below. Let me know what any suggestions you have. Like this video, subscribe, and we will see you next time.